Morning. Welcome to Ready, Set, Grow. We are going to let you get ready and we will be back at 9 o'clock. So do whatever you need to do your prep and we will see you back here soon. Thanks. All right, here we are. Welcome to Ready, Set, Grow. This is session 12, and this is our wrap up of our time together in this series. And I will be sending information about when we will restart because I think we'll take a little bit of a break here and hopefully you had a good couple of weeks. Something seems to be off, so I hope this is coming through okay for you because there seems to be a lag here. And hopefully all is going okay on your end. Let's start first and welcome. If you are a first timer, if this is new for you, welcome to our group. And just to reiterate, this group is designed for small businesses that are doing 5 million or less in revenue. So that's a bit of a range because it could be a startup company that's just getting going. It could be somebody that's been in business a year or two or 5 or 10. And so we've got some variety and things that I will share. You can adapt for pretty much any size organization. And generally, my comments are directed more to the B2B companies, although most of what we talk about does relate to B2C companies. And as you may be aware, if you've been here before, we start out with our kinesiology to get our brain hemispheres connected and have maximum brain power today. So let's start with that. And the first thing that we do is elbow to knee, and you're going to go to the opposite. So right elbow to left knee and vice versa. And we're going to do a few of those because, like I said, this is called kinesiology. And it's the only technique that I know of that will connect both hemispheres of your brain. And I forgot to mention, if you're not able to stand and do this, do it from your chair. If you're not able to get your knee up, just use your hand and tap to the knee. If you can't do the elbow to the knee, whatever you're doing, the whole idea is that you're crossing opposite sides of your brain, your right and left hemisphere, by using alternate body parts. That is done with first one. Put your hands together. We're going to do a figure 8. So just make your hands move in a figure 8. And Molly do 3 to 5 of these. And we're good to go on that. And then put the back of your hands together, link your fingers, and sort of push out and bring your hands back through. Okay, back of your hands together, link your fingers. And again, to me, it seems like sort of a push out action. And then you're going to bring your hands back through to the center. Last one. Back of your hands together, link your hands, fingers out and back through. I see I've got my blur screen on, so I'm going to fix that because that can disrupt our sharing. We'll get that fixed. Whoops. Go, takes care of that. And we'll get back to our screen share. We've got our camera refocused here. And as usual, we have a lot to cover. So we will get started. Use what you can use, take what is relevant, and ignore the rest. Let's take a look at what we're going to do today. We did our kinesiology. I'm going to do a quick, where are we at in this process? And as you know, this is session number 12. So this is wrapping up our 12 sessions. Typically takes 3 months. We had those 2 weeks off between Christmas and New Year. And we're going to cover some specific topics, wrap it up, and kind of talk about next steps. Here again, I just always encourage you, have your materials ready. You probably had that setup time, so you're all ready to go. You can get the journal if you'd like, and have your index cards. I'm a fan of index cards. Whatever works for you, just be ready. If you're using mind maps, this is the mind map that is designed to facilitate putting together your personal plan. And so the whole concept is the same. And you would put your subject in the middle and go from there. And here's where we're at in our process. We've got 3 main pillars. They're called 3 main ideas. Get ready, get set, and grow. And so the first session, or 4 sessions it was actually, we were talking about getting ready. We talked about your hidden motivators, thinking like a millionaire. What are millionaire habits? How do millionaires think? Is there something that we think in line with that? Do we need new ideas? The third point is getting your customers to love you. We had a couple sessions, I believe it was on that. The second pillar about getting set is to get on target. And that really is to zero in on who do you want for your customers? Who do you have now? Who's your best ones? How do you get more of those? The next point we talked about was revenue streams that make sense and make money. A whole lot of ideas there that you can use. Again, customize, pick what fits your business and do that. And upselling, cross-selling, we spent a couple sessions on that. Our third pillar over here is where we're at now, and that is our growth pillar. Do a little to get a lot. We talked about that. And master the money, really making sure that we are clear on our financial goals and that we've got a system to stay on top of all the financial things, which for some of us might be a challenge or it might be what we love doing. It just depends. And then your A team, we're going to talk about today, because in order to grow our businesses and increase our revenue and profits, grow and maybe develop a better business model or a better service model for our customers, maybe improve our products or services, you need a great team. That's our topic for today. And again, we've got a lot to cover, and some of this will be maybe review for you. Some might be new ideas. So again, I encourage you, anything you can do. I like highlighters. I take my pen, I make stars, I draw arrows, I do something so that I know what it is that really is a point that I want to go back to. Do whatever you can do that makes sense to you. So today we're going to talk about what this is about in our introduction, team vision and goals. Third point, team culture. Fourth is effective communication. Also, then we're going to talk about team selection, empowering and elevating your team, and sustaining high performance and continuous improvement. Yes, a lot to cover. And sometimes I hear people say, well, you talk about big business, that doesn't apply to me. Well, I'm going to use big business and public companies a lot of times as examples because they're easy to find information on. And sometimes if I share with you something about my rubber belting company, you probably go, what is that? I don't get it. Or another, one of my med tech clients that I've worked with, and you'd be like, what are you even talking about? So keep in mind that a lot of times I'm using examples that might sound like they don't fit. However, I just say take the best from wherever you can and use it in your business. I don't care if it's a consumer company, I don't care if it's a manufacturer, whatever it is. When you pick up an idea, just see how that would fit in your business and then make the most of it. All right, your team. Let's get started here on what we're going to cover today. And we, I think, all pretty much know that having a good team is absolutely important. And that could be a team of 2 people, or it could be 10, 20. It depends. And again, I know all organizations that are part of this are in different stages and different sizes. So keep that in mind. And having that A team, have a high performing team, that is key for growing any business, whether it's a tech startup or a mom and pop store down the street. And there are some benefits, obviously, just let's touch on that because I think most of this is pretty obvious. When you have a good team, that A team, you're going to have a higher performing team that meets goals and drives the organization forward. In fact, generally, instead of just meeting goals, a lot of times exceed the goals. And I would say most of us would probably be pretty doggone happy with exceeding our business goals. Enhanced innovation is a second benefit. And because you have a diverse and collaborative team, you are going to have more innovative ideas that can possibly revolutionize your products, services, and processes. If nothing else, they're going to help you improve. And you never know when there's going to be an idea that ends up being probably revolutionary. And effective problem solving is a third benefit of this. High performing teams tackle challenges collectively as well as individually. And when you can have good individual performers and then we come together on our team, we really have better results. And improved workplace culture is the fourth point. When we have a culture of mutual respect and trust and open communication, then our high performing teams are going to thrive and create a positive work environment. Yeah, it all probably seems pretty doggone simple and straightforward, doesn't it? Not a real mystery here. And what are some reasons? Again, just digging in a little bit more on why you want to have this high performing team. Well, synergy and creativity. You can work together and pull things together. And also with that high performing team, inherently you have more creative ideas. You've got people that are thinking differently, different perspectives. You've got better productivity. So you are not only going to meet your goals when people are your good performers and focused, you've got more productivity, better decision making, again, because people are in the right jobs and they're bringing together their ideas and working as a team. And the last, better engagement, because again, you now have people talking to each other and working together, which, hey, all of these are great, aren't they? we have to love all of this kind of stuff because it's pretty straightforward. And I guess I would just say one thing in a small business, I am totally guilty of this. I've been spending tons and tons of time working on books because I've got two dealing with chat GPT that are so timely. I want to get them out. And I'm spending too much time on that because it takes me out of some of the other things that I need to do. So we all need to be aware of that. And I think the key is having a good plan and sticking to your plan. And part of what I have in my plan is I've said, I'm going to get some of this stuff done because I've got a lot of content. And then I'll be somewhat regrouping. We talked about these benefits, I believe. Anyway, when we have our A team together, everything works better. Our performance is better. The innovation and ideas and problem solving and the culture, I think we mentioned all of those. It all creates a better system for growing our business and achieving our goals. Let's talk about then vision and goals of your A team. And these are so important. So, and we've talked about setting your business goals and your revenue goals before. So this probably is not going to be much of a mystery for you. When you're doing your goals, be sure that they are clear and simple. You don't want to have complicated things that don't understand or that people don't understand. Keep things simple. Get some feedback from your team members and have them help you get those goals more clear and more specific. And alignment, if you've got a corporate goal of increasing your revenue 50%, 20%, 150%, whatever that is, as far as your bigger goal, make sure that then all the team goals line up with that. So everything is consistent and coherent and working together. The third point, inspirational and aspirational. We want to have goals that we're setting within our team. We know we want to do this company wide. And in our team, we want to have goals that are inspiring to the team as well as aspirational. So inspire to do things and aspire to do better things or to grow. So we want to have those two components as much as we can and be future oriented. Remember again, when we talked about vision and mission in particular, we talked about you want to be thinking about the future. You do in your teams as well. And there's different ways to do goals and all of that, from the 90-day plans to the annual to the 3-year to the 5-year. And in a team, you're usually pretty operational. So you're going to be dealing more in a short term. I think a 90-day plan is great. What I really, really think is probably the most important, though, is to lay out your plan for the year. And then you do it by quarter, then get into your 90-day plan so that you've got that consistency and cohesiveness. I think you want to consider that for your team vision and goals as well. And some key things when you are also working with your team is to have role clarity. Be sure that all team people, team members, are really clear on what it is that they need to do. And then you want to also talk about the interconnectedness, because in any organization, we overlap, we work together, we dovetail. If somebody's got skills on a, let's say your finance person who might be on contract and part-time, your finance person has certain skills that they bring to the table. You might have a creative person doing social media or some communications thing. They bring other skills. And you might have a production person, let's just say. Well, all of those really are connected. And I think even more so in a small business, or it's more important, even a small business. And that is key in getting your team together to perform well. And then talk about the value of each person's contribution. Sometimes we forget. And, if I'm a person in a job that I don't see how I contribute to the organization, I'm probably not going to be as motivated. And it certainly wouldn't be inspiring if I felt like I was just going through the motions. Keep in mind that people need to be told how they contribute and how they really are part of the team. All right, let me just stop for a quick minute. Go back here. All right, so we talked about the benefits, why you need a good team, all these kinds of things. I think most of us would say, yeah, that's pretty obvious. All right, is there anything here that struck you that you think, gotta remember, gotta think about this, anything differently? This is more background information, so it's not getting into much on a how-to level. But just take a look at these. Synergy and creativity, better productivity, better decision-making, better engagement. Anything there grab you? Probably know this. And the benefits in performance, innovation, problem solving, and your culture. Again, kind of backgroundy stuff. And then setting those vision and goals. Now we're getting into the nuts and bolts. Anything here where you're going, doggone it. I need to be more clear. I need to simplify things. Hey, I can complicate, as you can tell. I can complicate anything. And generally, when I work with tech companies and med tech or other companies, one of the big things I bring is how to simplify and make things understandable. And we need to do that within our own organizations. So anything here that grabs you, just make a note. How about here? Talking about the role clarity, interconnectedness, and value. All right, just mark up your paper or make some notes on an index card, and we are going to talk next about SMART goals a little bit here within this section. So just quickly, when you're setting your goals, you can use this diagram if you want, and it's basically doing SMART goals and objectives. And most of us are probably clear with or familiar with that. The first thing is to be specific. Remember our other point on clarity and simplicity? Yeah. So here we have it again. Be specific and define your goals and your purpose. Vague goals lead to confusion and unmet expectations. There's a saying, I can't remember it, something like confusion. I don't know. But anyway, confusion and lack of clarity. People don't know what to do. Second point here, have those goals be measurable as much as you can. If you say, well, we've got to sell more. Okay, what does that mean? You need to sell more annually. What does that mean on a monthly basis? What does it mean on a weekly basis? Even then defining what daily activities need to be done. Anyway, be measurable, be specific, and achievable. You want to have goals set that you know are realistic. You want to stretch, and you want to be able to achieve those goals. One of my goals is putting out some of my content into book form, and I should know this. I think I just went through, and there's probably 5 that I will be getting produced this year. 5 books, might be more than that, and 2, 3 of them are fairly new content. And some of the other ones are things that I've known. And remember when we talked about multiple revenue streams and different ways to make money? Well, I'm thinking, okay, I'm not in a manufacturing company myself, and maybe my product is my intellectual property, and maybe it's going to be books. So I decided that some of the stuff that I've got that basically is really there and it just has to be designed and formatted, I'm going to do it. So that's kind of been my example. Be realistic or relevant, and probably relevant is a good word to use when you are talking to your team, because you want to, again, remember, align those goals with your bigger business goals. And relevant then could be maybe a little bit more significant as the word to use instead of realistic, because you want things to align and they have to fit in the bigger context of your business. Time bound, again, is this something you're going to do that has a deadline in the first quarter, the first 6 months, on a weekly basis? Be very clear as much as you can on what your deadlines and your time-based aspect is going to be. Now, some companies, I was going to share with you the Tesla example quickly. Notes on that as an example. Tesla, in their vision and goal setting and all of that kind of stuff, you hear plenty about Elon Musk, and he's pretty vocal, and he's pretty vocal in his company as well. So one of the things that they have done is they have gone and really wanted to create products that are in the sustainable energy model. And that's been a powerful unifying force for Tesla, for his entire organization. That vision then is throughout the organization, and each team puts together their goals to support that. He also encourages risk taking so that there are calculated risks that people take and they think outside the box, not like they're doing crazy stuff. Although if you're on the outside, you might think they're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. They do have a plan and they are moving forward. And so he encourages experimentation and innovation. Cross-functional collaboration, we're going to talk about that as well, where they emphasize collaboration between different departments. Remember when I talked about that a little bit? And they break down their silos so that they've got people that are engineers, designers, and other aspects working closely together so that they can share and contribute. And it's a fast-paced environment, obviously. And this also, for them, works well and drives people to excel. Just a little bit there on an example with Tesla. Let's talk about that strong team culture. And there are some aspects here to kind of understand. So let's talk first about the role of culture. And it's not just a buzzword. And I hear more and more people that are in job transition talking about the culture of the company that they want to join and how they want to be part of an organization that stands for something. So culture is getting to be probably a more talked about topic. And you in your business, you get to create what that culture is going to be. And the first point here is collaboration and innovation. And you want to have a positive team culture because then you have open dialogue and collaboration among your team members. And of course, that is when you have innovation and innovative solutions coming forth in your organization, no matter what your business is, because it could be how you deliver your product or service. It doesn't have to mean you're a product company. The second point is trust and feeling safe. And people need to be in the kind of culture in an organization where they trust each other and where they feel that they can bring up ideas and they can talk to each other. And you can always preface things and say, this might be a crazy idea. And then you can share that with people on your team. A third point then is employee engagement satisfaction. Of course, those have been buzzwords too, probably more in the corporate world, but we still hear all this stuff, of course, small business or not. And by having that positive culture in your organization, this leads to higher levels of employee engagement and job satisfaction. And when you have team members that like their jobs, that enjoy where they're working, they're going to be more motivated to excel. All right, anything grab you there where you go, yeah. Got to remember this, or I'm going to share it with somebody. If there's anything you want to mark up, just mark it up on your paper. And there's some things too, when we talk about this and we talk about our core values, there's some aspects for creating that strong team culture. So first is here, I call it desired behavior. So think about what behaviors you want to encourage in your organization. Do you want to encourage transparency, accountability, empathy? What is it? And when we worked on vision, mission, and values, you might want to go back to some of those notes that you have and see what you consider your core values and include those, and on purpose be able to support that in your team. Involve team members. So you also want to encourage team members to contribute their insights, their ideas. Again, doesn't matter where these ideas come from. If they know your organization well enough, they are going to have some ideas about what will make sense and what will work. And this, again, will help make sure that your core values resonate with everyone on the team through your collaborative approach. and building. I mean, isn't that inherent in the word team? And last is have concise value statements. Again, go back to those values. And a lot of times you want to have some values for the team within the team and put that together. And then you will transform those behaviors that are in alignment with those value statements. And that will reflect a little bit of the team's identity and purpose. And all of that helps us work better together. Here's some things that make for a strong team culture, because we can go back and we can think about, all right, there's reasons to do this. We're going to have more engagement. We're going to have these benefits. We need to think about what behaviors we're trying to reinforce and involve team members, things we just talked about. Well, communication and trust are really, really key. And I'm beginning to think that communication might be up there in one of those most vital aspects in any organization. It seems like communications within the organization, with team members, and with the customers, it seems like communication, if you get down to the root cause, that almost always is where there's been a problem and things start to break down. Even think about your organization. If you say, hey, my goal is to increase our revenue 50% this year. All right, what is that? Well, you need to constantly be reminding yourself, possibly, of that goal and having all the pieces together. And you need to share that with your team. And some of this is appropriate to share with your customers or people in your community, other stakeholders. Keep in mind that it's pretty hard to over communicate. A couple things. Active listening is one of those traits or skills or tools that you want to use. And we've talked about this before. I'm going to probably run through some of this with you. And this really promotes understanding and validates others' perspectives. So you want to engage in active listening and transparency. When you encourage transparent communication where everybody knows what's going on, team members are better informed, they're more valued, they're included. Again, that helps build that strong team culture. And a third, too, is to have regular check-ins. So when you're doing things with your team, and again, it varies all over the board if you've got a 2-person team or if you've got 10 or 20 people, we still want to have regular check-ins where we're talking with our entire organization, as well as specific teams, and then on an individual level. And I've got some best practices on meetings and other things that I have put in the group. So go look in that, use what you can use there as well. I like to put things in tables and kind of like checklists because I think that makes it easier. Another thing is to have a diverse team. And part of that is, how do you recruit? Well, there's different ways to recruit, and you want to have policies that also support a diverse workforce. And I think that can be maybe a little bit more challenging sometimes in a small business. Keep in mind, you want to have diverse ideas, and that really comes from different ethnic groups, different genders, different age cohorts, age groups. And sometimes we don't even think about that, where we might have some 20-somethings, 30-somethings in our organization. Well, the way they think, their whole life of how they've experienced business and our whole technology world is different than what maybe somebody in their 50s and 60s has experienced. So keep in mind that there is diversity in a number of ways. And psychological safety, again, so that people feel like it's a safe environment for them to bring up ideas and be able to share them, even if they think the idea might not make sense or be kind of goofy. One more thing I wanted to share with you is that a lot of times in our teams, there's going to be some kind of conflict or disagreement, and you want to keep a positive environment. Engage in constructive feedback so that you might need some training on this. maybe you personally, or your team members. This could be something that would be really good to do a little work online and find a good workshop or something. Then put together some role plays if you've got enough people that you can do that in your organization, and figure out what does it take to give constructive feedback and make sure that that's how you do it. Mediation can be another tool if if there are people in your organization that are having some friction. Mediation is an option. Again, you probably want a professional on that. And keep in mind that you want to focus on solutions. I had this come up with someone that was working at a Caribou, and the person said, I couldn't get the team member, this was a team leader, and I couldn't get the team person to make sure he was staying on top of the orders, and et cetera, et cetera. And he said to me, I had to call him out on that. And I said, well, what you really need to do is talk about what the company expects of people, what the company is committing to. And if they say everyone needs to be involved on the orders, take them in line, whatever it is, and you need to talk about what are the solutions and not get into, hey, you weren't doing your job, you were slacking off. And again, it's all training and experience in most of those cases. We're going to talk about team communications a little bit next. All right, anything here where you go, oh yeah, there's an idea. Anything here strike you? That is maybe not anything new, maybe it is something new, or just something that you have been thinking about and need to take some action on. So here you go. You can see what we've just reviewed. All right. Team communications are, like I said, I think really, really important. And this comes into team dynamics, active and empathic listening, using different channels, having productive meetings, and maybe doing some role plays. So let's talk first about team dynamics. And here, when you've got a team, again, kind of comes down to you want to be clear and ensure that every team member understands the tasks and goals and responsibilities of the team, as well as what each of them personally contribute. So be very, very clear there. Coordination and collaboration. So we know that teams have individuals with diverse skills, diverse ideas that we just talked about. And so effective communication will help make sure that these skills complement each other. And that, again, leads to better coordination, collaboration in the team, and problem solving decision making. When we've got good communications, this facilitates brainstorming. If we're going to have a brainstorming or just some kind of a meeting and discuss ideas, this will lead to better decisions and, more than likely, some innovative problem solving, at least at some point in time. I mean, there's other things that are maybe more routine, and occasionally you might get involved with something and go, oh, wow, that changes the whole game, or changes how we communicate for the better. And keep in mind that you want to use different channels of communication, depending, and this really applies externally as well. This, however, we're talking about internal communication. So again, use email when that's appropriate. And that's good for sharing information, updates. Sometimes that's the best way if you've got a lot of information to get out, or you've got a process or something. Bulleted items, official communication, something like that. Typically, not always, but an email might be a tool that you use if you don't need immediate action. Not always. Video conferencing, and that can be really good for face-to-face discussions like we're having today. If we had people in the chat group, we'd be able to go back and forth. This is great for brainstorming as well. It helps to have a good facilitator. And team meetings, again, when it's not possible to meet in person. And because of us doing a lot of work virtually these days, that's probably pretty common. And you might have part-time people working on your team. You might have contractors, all of that. So video options like Zoom, team meetings and Google Meets, all of those can be really helpful. And then the in-person meetings, let's keep in mind that there still is real value in having in-person meetings. to have productive meetings, and there is a best practices in the group you can certainly go look at. I don't know, but boy, when I was in corporate, we had a lot of work on make sure you have productive meetings, have your agendas, stick to the schedule, all of that kind of stuff. So if a lot of us have come out of corporate America, we do learn some structure, and that can be really helpful when we're working then in a smaller organization. So make sure your agendas are set up before the meeting. You might distribute it before the meeting, and make sure that it's clear. Make sure you have a schedule that you're going to stick on. So time management is important, and participation. Get people to participate in the meetings. Again, if you have, depending on what you're doing, you might want to bring in a facilitator to make sure that all of the people in your meeting get engaged. So it kind of depends. And the last thing is just to throw out an idea for you that you might want to do some role playing within your team. Topics to do for role playing is conflict resolution. And again, lots of great stuff online. For most of us in a small business, I would say that would be my first thing, is to do some searching online, find out if there's a workshop. You probably find out something good on YouTube. Ask your networking buddies what would be a suggestion they have. Also on constructive feedback, you could do some role plays on how to engage in that, and active listening. I wanted to share with you quickly here because I'm just going to run through some of these. And there is information in our group that you can use. So this is more of a checklist. Again, let's just quickly go through. So we talked about the strong culture, creating that, and how important communication is. All these pieces about communications. Is there anything that jumped out at you? Here was the more detailed on team dynamics for communications. And within that, also using the different channels to communicate. Maybe there's something here that you haven't utilized as much. Oh, and things like Slack and other meeting kind of technology is available. You can actually do that through Google and set up a separate group in Google where you've got the chat feature as well as the email feature. So that might be something to take a look at. On any of this stuff you don't know how to do, go to ChatGPT or Bing, or Bard is known for making things up. So you probably want to do Bing, which uses ChatGPT now, and ask, how would I do this? And just ask. Or go do a Google search and maybe you'll find something as well on YouTube. All right. So I don't have a slide for this. I just want to run through a couple things here on listening skills. These are the ones that are considered best practices. Let me just share them with you. So the full first point is give your full attention. When somebody is speaking, give them your undivided attention. And I know a lot of times we're busy and our brains are constantly in action. Well, when we're listening to somebody, make that eye contact, settle down everything else, and just listen to them. Second point is then maintain eye contact. And I sometimes have a little bit too much eye contact where I feel like I'm just staring and drilling a hole into the other person's head. Keep in mind that it's okay to occasionally look away and still have good eye contact. Show empathy. So empathize with the speaker's emotions and perspectives. And this helps build rapport and trust within the team. I don't know if you're familiar with some of the rapport and techniques that you can learn. You could look up neurolinguistic programming. That is a huge element of neurolinguistic, or NLP, is rapport building. Avoid interrupting. That's point number 4, is again, let them finish their thoughts. Yep. Probably all of us could get better at that. I could use open body language. So instead of, being all shut down or looking away, turning your body, all those kinds of things, have an open body language. Reflect and summarize. This can be helpful too, where when somebody's sharing something, you come back and say, let me see if I've got this right. You said 1, 2, and 3. And have them then tell you, yeah, you got it. Those were the things that I said. Use open-ended questions as much as possible, because then you get a discussion. Point number 8 is to paraphrase and repeat, which is really like summarizing. So not a whole lot of difference on that point. And then number 9, minimize distractions. Again, get away from the computer, turn off the phone. I had somebody buzz in here when we got started. I forgot to mute my phone, and it's about a meeting that I've got coming up. So I'm like, well, things are coming and I don't have time to talk. So do those things that you can. Go to the group and take a look at the tools that I have shared with you in a document. All right, let's go here. You need to also, okay, just if there's anything you need to make note of, do that. Next, we're going to talk about finding the right people because, again, to have our A team, we need to find the right people. First thing is identify the skills required. And sometimes we might start off and say, in a young company, first thing I need to do is find somebody that just will take care of routine stuff. All right, brainstorm everything that needs to be done. This is a great tool for your index card. If you've got certain things that you want to get off your plate, make that list. Then you're going to go and prioritize it. If you've got somebody that you need help with on communications, okay. If you need somebody that helps on product development, okay. If you need somebody that helps on marketing strategy, okay. If you need somebody that does lead gen, just be really clear on what it is that you need. Again, I'm a firm believer of Chat GPT and artificial intelligence, but since chat's the big gun out there, I usually talk about that one. You can ask it, you can give it all these aspects and say, write me a job description. Getting a little bit off track on my topic here. However, it is such a great tool. You can also go and do Google searches. And if you've got a job title, search for job descriptions. So go through the process of finding people. Again, we're not going to talk a lot about that. You probably know about Indeed and online things. A really good way too is to talk to your network and interview people for a cultural fit. When I did research a few years ago, I was asking CEOs what was their top most important characteristic in building their inner circle, their executive team. Number 1, likability. Can you believe that? And they basically said if somebody was at a senior level, they better have the skills, and they assumed they did. So then they had to find somebody that they wanted to work with and could work with and that they liked. Keep that in mind. I think that's really kind of an eye-opener. Reduce bias. So again, as you're involved in this process, you want to reduce the bias of any of these steps, and then onboard. So important to get people started off on the right foot. And here, just to dig in a little bit more on identifying skills, there's some things you could do a skill assessment. You can do something, well, I think we already copied most of or talked about that, but there's professionals you can bring in. And I would say a really good idea is to find somebody that's an HR professional and bring them in on a contract basis as needed, because you don't want to goof up some of this. And if you're like me, you might not be the greatest at recruiting the right people. Get some help. Soft skills, those are more on the communications and the team, the management, the collaborative type of skills. Those are important. And oftentimes, well, at least in the world I come from, those were downplayed because you wanted to have the hard skills, the more bottom line, what do you know how to do? And then cultural fit. Ask some questions to see if they fit in your organization. All right. And the recruiting process, again, you want to do your best to get diverse candidates and take a look at what they bring to the table. Put together your strategy. Again, an HR expert would probably be really helpful on that. And then interviewing, because there's different ways to interview, and get some help on that. I would say definitely get some help on that. There's something called behavioral interviews and also the cultural fit. Well, behavioral interviews oftentimes will say, tell me about a time when you had this problem and what did you do? Those are behavioral interview questions. So things about scenarios. Think about your organization and what is very typical in your organization. Build that as a scenario and then ask, how would you deal with this? Or what have you done in the past? Then the culture fit is really trying to make sure that the person is aligned with your values. Again, To reduce bias, do things like structured interviews. You might have more than one person do an interview. You might put together a panel. Again, it all depends on the size of the organization, and have some objective criteria. It's a really good thing to have pre-built kind of a scorecard when you interview people, so that after the interview, you can go back and you can rate that person. Let's say it was communication skills, job skills, and you might be real specific on some of those job skills, but have a checklist or rate the person on a scale of 1 to 5, and just be consistent and be organized on that. Another great area to get some professional help. And then onboarding, have a structured process. Go through that and make sure that day one, you know what's going to happen. Week 1, week 2, 3, and 4. And again, these might be outside of, if you're a small business owner, it might be outside of your normal functioning. Get some help on it. And think about having mentors or other support, coaches and mentors, or you yourself could be coaching the new person. Coaches and mentors don't have to be in your organization. They can be outside, and provide regular feedback, especially for newbies. You want to probably give them feedback almost daily, or talk with them about how things are going, and give feedback as close to whatever the action is as possible, whether it's a positive thing or a negative thing. All right, take a look at your notes. Anything there that you want to remember? Again, we're going to keep rolling along. Let's talk then about empowering and elevating. First thing is to delegate effectively. And we've talked about constructive feedback, making an individual development plan, enhancing their skills with a coach or mentor, and celebrating. We've talked about some of this a little bit here already when we've talked about the things we just covered. So let's go through this. And first point is to delegate effectively. Really, really be clear on what it is that the person's job is, and delegate. I know sometimes there are things that we cannot delegate, and so we get stuck doing more and more ourselves. That can be a trap in a small business. It can be a trap in any business. Really take a look at that. And when you have the people in the right jobs, which of course is an EOS principle that is pretty doggone helpful, look at how your whole team, you and your team, will be more productive, because then you're capitalizing and using people's strengths and skills. Skill development or skill enhancement, when you delegate appropriately, this gives team members an opportunity to learn new skills and become more valuable, frankly, to your organization when they learn and grow in their capacity. And it also, when you motivate, or when you delegate effectively, people are more motivated because they feel like they're doing something that matters. Next point is to do constructive feedback and growth and improvement. So here's a few things. If you say, well, what does that mean? How do you do constructive feedback? Be specific and actionable when you're talking with people. Make sure that you're coming up with ideas that they can use and put in place. Be very, very specific, and have regular check-ins. I put that down here as continuous, that you want to keep talking and slow down, take some time and say, yeah, I need to talk to my team members. If you're at all like me, you're probably a little bit of a go, go, go person, and you need to slow down and talk to them, and have a balanced approach. So that might be more of a style thing, where you need to decide, do I just talk about all the good things? Do I just talk about what they need to improve? How do I put that all together? And a balanced approach really talks about recognizing and appreciating the achievements that a person makes. And then you have a positive environment, and that fosters growth. And if there's some things that need work, you still need to talk about that. So it's a lot of how you deliver it. Create individual plans. Again, what that really means is talking with your team person and being clear with them what goals you have. They probably have some goals of what they want to do. Identify if there are some skills that they need to develop, and then how that's going to happen. and track and adjust. And enhance skills through coaching and mentoring. I'm not going to talk in detail about that. Coaching and mentoring can be a fine line. Coaching usually is things like working on their skills and things that they need to know in their job. Mentoring is a little bit more usually for career development. And again, you can do these, I would say, if it's somebody on your or in your organization, you can coach. Probably not as good spot for you to mentor. I think, but use your own judgment and reach out to Lori Creever, who has a whole book on that and does workshops and everything else. Reverse mentoring, I just want to mention this because I think it's such a great idea. I love this idea where reverse mentoring is where you have a newbie or a younger person that mentors up to somebody that's older. Hey, think about this. In fact, it kind of cracks me up because my son, who's 22, I said, hey, I can get you into my artificial intelligence program for free, all the training. And I said, what are you doing with Chat GPT? He didn't even know what it was. So that would be very unusual, wouldn't it be? You always figure the younger ones are all over technology, but man, I can tell you he's all over the phone and some of the things with new computer setups. So keep in mind that you can reverse mentor. All right. And we're just rolling along here. There are some things I had a couple of examples, might not have time to get into. Now, let me just stop. Let's go back. All right. Finding the right people. These were kind of the big buckets of identify the skills, have a process for finding people, interview and the culture fit, reduce bias and onboarding. And then we went through and dug down into all of these things. And then we talked about empowering and elevating. These were the four main things. Some overlap with previous topics. And then we dug into each one of those very quickly. Again, go to the Facebook group and see what you can find there because I've got some best practices and checklists and so on for different things. Oh, I maybe forgot to do the celebrate. And in celebration, you might be good at this. I'm not. So I have to remind myself that it's a good idea to regularly get together with the team and do the attaboys, tell them what a great job they did. And it's also nice to personalize some of that recognition specifically for that person and also do team celebrations. And I just wanted to mention my friend Gwen, who works in manufacturing, and she is so good at this. And she's really an upbeat, hands-on person who also knows tons of stuff within her area of expertise. She's amazing. Anyway, she used to take her team to the Dairy Queen every Friday to celebrate what they had accomplished for the week. I think great idea. Whatever you're going to do, doesn't mean it's weekly. It's a good idea to do it within fairly frequent schedule. And, people will do pizza parties, different things. Do what makes sense for you. All right. Just see what will work. Then you want to have a sustainable high performance team and continuous improvement because we want this to be ongoing, obviously. One of the key things is to have systems and tracking in place, innovation and adaptable culture, be aware of burnout, and look for continuous improvement and that long-term roadmap. So let's just talk about this real quickly here. Have a system for tracking and put together your KPIs, your key performance indicators, and monitor how you're doing on them. And then you're going to make data-driven decisions. It gets away from, if you ever have fallen into the trap or been around somebody that does, it gets you away from the personality issues and petty things and stuff like that. And if you don't have KPIs, that is A-okay. Come up with what those goals are for the team. Remember, we talked about that. And just write them down and review with the team. You can do that. That'll turn into a KPI. So if you don't know what a KPI is or haven't put that together, it doesn't matter. Just keep track of your goals and monitor them. And monitor depends on the situation. In a turnaround, I'm usually monitoring things pretty darn closely. Some things I'm monitoring daily, certainly weekly, and definitely monthly. Depends on your organization. Most of you are in a turnaround, so you probably don't need to be quite that almost obsessive. Use your data to make decisions. That works best for everybody. Then your culture and innovation, or the culture of innovation and adaptability. Here's 3 things to do if you're trying to do that. Encourage experimentation. Give people some flexibility to try different things, try new things. In a small business, sometimes you feel like we don't have time for that. We got to just stick to our knitting and stay on it. Well, see what you can do and encourage people. Learn and improve. Again, I just think there's different places we can learn things. Keep yourself and your team really focused on listening for ideas that you can use to make improvements, and have an agile mindset. If you don't know a lot about agile, you might want to dig into that. There's a good book that really is built on that whole premise. It's called The Lean Startup. And yeah, it's geared more towards startup businesses. But he talks about how you do certain, let's say you have 5 things you need to do. You do 3 of them and see how that's working. Then if we're all good, you do steps 4 and 5. Kind of that concept, but with the agile mindset is you do part of a product development or part of whatever and evaluate. That kind of goes into A/B testing if you do things like that on digital media. The idea is just to do things and monitor and be able to adjust. The other thing is, I think in any business, and probably, I don't know if it's more so in small businesses, that boy, everybody's busy doing a number of things. So watch for burnout and watch for the signs of burnout and talk about it within your team and put together some wellness ideas. And that could be where you say, hey, everybody's got to take a break, everybody's got to go have lunch, and whatever it might be, talk about it, put together those pieces. I think this is something that most of us have learned, and we want to keep learning and continue to improve our organizations. Here's a couple of things that are helpful to do. Post-project review. When you finish a project, a client work, or whatever it is, and again, if you've got a team, you can do this by yourself as well, is really look at it and go, all right, how did that go? What could I have done better? It's a good time to engage the customer and get some feedback from them. And, I did a launch for a Chat GPT, kind of basic review. Well, I was a little bit too excited about having it at this fabulous place where it was just such an inviting atmosphere that I had no way of knowing that they had some other security provisions. So I wasn't able to get on some of the websites that I wanted to use. Yeah, never happened before. Well, obviously that is something where I'm like, okay, guess we won't be doing it at that location again because I need to have access to other things. And also be sure you identify the root cause of what really is behind. If there was something that didn't work out, get to that and implement your learnings. Put together a long-term roadmap for excellence. Goes back to things we've talked about. Set the goals. Put those milestones out there, accomplish them, celebrate when you do it, regularly access things and refine what you're doing, and adapt to changes. Lots of stuff. Put together that A team, whatever that looks like in your organization. All right, we're going to wrap. And here we are at the end of our 12 weeks. If you've got any things that you've been working on, review that. Identify what needs to be done to build your team. We talked very quickly about a number of ideas. Go back on your notes before you jump into more busyness during your day and figure out what is it that you need to review? What do you need to do? Put together your plan and then review things weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, and execute. So start small. Take one thing or 3 things, whatever it might be, and make it manageable so that you can do it. Outline those next steps and get going. If you want to get in touch with me, I didn't have time to put together a contact slide. Most of you know where I am. If you need to get a hold of me, Becky.Amble, A-M-B-L-E, at the Platinum GRP for group.com, or call me 612-327-6318. Thank you for participating in this. And I know we went through a lot of information again quickly. I'm kind of one of those, I like to have a lot of information and identify what it is that you can focus on that's going to make that difference for you. Let me know how you're doing. If you've got questions, reach out. If you know people that want to work specifically on their strategic marketing plan, that's what we do in the paid group. All we do, and we take it a little bit slower and give you time to work on your plan for increasing your revenue and improving your business. Thanks for being here, and I look forward to hearing from you and seeing you next time. Well, next time we're together. Be sure you go to the discussion or the guide section, I forget what it's called all the time, in the Facebook group, because there are a lot of documents that you could find helpful. Thanks much, and we'll see you down the road, I hope. Good luck with your business.